We are in part 9 of To Whom is the Lord Speaking. In today's message, we'll be talking about the Seventh-day Advantages, those that are stuck and that have not progressed, and therefore are identified as Laodicean, or the sleeping church. So what we really need to identify is whether or not we're still in Laodicea. Are we blind, wretched, naked, and miserable and not even knowing it? So how do we know? How do we know? How do we know that I am not still a Laodicean? And knowing that the Laodicean church is the church temporal, the seventh church, which is soon to be purified, making it the eighth, the eternal church. We want to make sure that we've progressed from the seventh understanding of what God is doing to the eighth. No more to linger in the church temporal, but progressing with the church eternal. So in order to intelligently to discuss this question, we must first have a mental picture of what Laodiceans are like, opposed to those that are a part of the eighth, the eternal church, those that have embraced the light as it is in Jesus, as the scroll is unrolled. So depicting the Laodicean church, I read in your hearing, Revelation 3:14 through 18. And unto the angel to the church of the Laodiceans write, These things saith the Amen, the faithful and true witness, and the beginning of the creation of God. I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I would thou wert cold or hot. So then, because thou art lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. Because thou sayest, I am rich and increase with goods, and have need of nothing, and knowest not that thou art wretched, and miserable, and poor, and blind, and naked, I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou mayest be rich, in white raiment, that thou mayest be clothed, and that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear, and anoint thine eyes with eye salve, that thou mayest see. So what is wrong with the angel of Laodicea? Well, he is lukewarm. He is neither cold nor hot, and the Lord recommends that he be either cold or hot. Uncomfortable, in search of something better, rather than stay lukewarm, well contented with his spiritual attainments, supposedly rich and increased with goods, that is with truth, not knowing that he is spiritually poor, blind, and naked. He is warned by it by the all-knowing one and asked to repent. And if the Lord's own warning fails to change his mind, then the only thing left for the Lord to do is to spew him out of his mouth. By the words, I am rich and increased with goods, the angel of Laodicea is saying that he has good understanding of the Bible and has the testimonies for the church, and that these make him rich, and that in addition to these, he has other denominational publications, his increase. He thus deceives himself that he has the whole truth to carry him right on through the pearly gates, and that he needs nothing more. The Lord's counsel, however, that he buy of him gold that is tried in the fire, so that he may be rich, unveils the fact that the Laodiceans' riches are not pure gold, and that their so-called increase is not an increase of truth, but worthless, uninspired interpretations not tried in the fire. Now notice also that the angel of Laodicean is naked too. He has not the wedding garment on, and he has not the righteousness of Christ. And his being naked, not having on any clothes, denotes that he has no righteousness save his own, the righteousness with which he was born, his bare skin. Moreover, he is spiritually blind, in that for his ailment the Lord's eye salve is the only remedy. Now, if he would just take the Lord's counsel and apply the salve to his ailing eyes, he could then see. What is represented by the salve? First, let us see what makes a man spiritually blind. The one who knows even the number of hairs on our heads points out that if the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? Matthew 6:23. If negligence of making proper use of spiritual light makes the offender blind, then something having power to arouse in him zeal to discover the true condition is his only remedy. Only, and I say only, such an eye salve can possibly open his eyes. Let me concretely illustrate this. Without understanding what it means to be an offshoot, we are all offshoots when you consider the progression of the church and how truth has progressed from one movement to the next. So when I interact and engage with people in Laodicean, individuals often will say to me, well, I heard so much against the perceived upshoots or offshoots, however you want to perceive it. And what I heard made me unmercifully prejudiced. But I happened to get a hold of a message. I started to understand and listen for courtesy's sake, and I thought, let's see what it's all about. But as I read a few pages and as I listened to more and more messages, my eyes began to open, and I read more and more of the information. I listened to more and more of the messages, so I was anxious to get more information. Will you please send me whatever messages you have or materials so I can read them? And I could cite so many other messages where people are saying, what is this? What is this fourth angel's message? What is this visitation that is going to create such a revival and a reformation? Well, these truth-seeking brethren obviously represent those who can be pried out of their Laodiceanism. Their experiences will illustrate that the salve represents inspiration's timely truth. Now, let me tell you of some other individuals, another class of people from whom I hear all the time. They say, please keep the information from you. Please take me off the internet mailing list. I am not in the least interested in what you are doing. Everything that you send me, I just discard it. I never listen, I never read them. No, not a line. I am satisfied, lukewarm with my religion, and I belong to the true remnant church, and I expect to go with it. How dare you try to deceive me? And many others say, please do not send me any more information. I am satisfied with my own views. This kind of talk and communication is typically Laodicean. It perfectly expresses their lukewarmness. And the Lord, though, is against their attitude. Is there anything which could more completely and more quickly sever one's communication line with God forever than an attitude of having all the truth and of having need of no more? The disposition and the attitude portrayed by these individuals from which I just described to you does not say, I am rich and in need of nothing no more. Then what could say it? This group of Laodiceans will never have their eyes open and will never be anything but wretched, miserable, poor, blind, and naked. They can never be reached by heaven, not even by the Lord himself. If they thus continue, then the only thing Christ can do is to spew them out of his mouth, never again to mention their names at the throne of grace. Anything new from the Bible that is brought out by anyone but themselves, even though purported to be through inspiration, they hastily brand deception, though they are already in a gross self-deception. They read the Bible with the hope of finding proof by which to disagree with everyone but themselves. Let me illustrate. I may be on my way to the bank with $1 million, and I may seriously believe that I am a millionaire. But suppose the banker tells me your money is counterfeit, and suppose I have no other. Then how rich would I be? I would be as rich as is the angel of Laodicea. And just an eye-opening experience is what the Laodiceans need. Unless something like it happens to them, they will forever think that they are rich and in need of nothing more. Some say, though, that not long from hence, the heavenly watcher himself will demonstrate to them face to face that their gold is not tried in the fire. Then their eyes will be opened, but not soon enough to do them any good. What they now see at a distance appears to them for sure to be the sea of glass. But when they get to the end of the way and take a close look, they will indescribably grief with their quivering voice cry out, mirage, mirage, not the sea of glass. Then they will be anxious to know the truth and will pay anything to get it. But it will be too late, and they will, to change the figure, get to the door only to hear the voice from within say, I know you not. Now, by a person's facial characteristics, we're able to identify his race. And similarly, we can judge one's profession by the type of clothes he wears. And if a person wears fine clothes and is not decked with everything he can put on, we judge him to be a businessman. But if he wears lower grade clothes and has on his body every trinket that he can pin on, then we judge him to be a cheap sport. If he is clothed in overalls, we judge him to be a laborer. And if he is dressed otherwise, we judge him to be a white-collar worker. But if he wears no clothes, then no one but God can tell what he is. Such is a Laodicean. Now, if the garment represents Christ's righteousness, then if one has no garment at all, is naked, then whose righteousness would he have? It's called self-righteousness. Only the skin in which he was born. The Laodiceans' nakedness represents just that, but they know it not. And in all respect, I realize this is saying much, but it is not saying too much because it is the Lord who says it. So God invites the Laodiceans to buy of him gold, the kind that is tried in the fire, that is inspired truth, so that they might be truly rich. And he invites them to put on the wedding raiment, so that they be not cast into outer darkness, there to weep and to gnash their teeth. If they do not accept his invitation now, yes now, their nakedness will be exposed, and they thus put to shame. Now, if you do the opposite of what the Laodiceans do, then of course you cannot be still a Laodicean. And it's just as easy to know whether or not you're a progressive believer, those that are going to be a part of the eternal church, that is of the eighth. And to find out if you are a progressive believer, an offshoot and an upshoot, and not a deadhead, you must first know what it is. Well, briefly stated, the one is recognized by his garment, and by the source from which he gets it, and by what he gives in exchange for it. For the prophet Zechariah explained, "And he showed me Joshua the high priest standing before the angel of the Lord, and Satan standing at his right hand to resist him. And the Lord said unto Satan, The Lord rebuke thee, O Satan, even the Lord that hath chosen Jerusalem rebuke thee. Is this not a brand plucked out of the fire?" And notice that Joshua was clothed with filthy garments, and stood before the angel. And he answered and spake unto those that stood before him, saying, Take away the filthy garments from him. And unto him he said, Behold, I have caused thine iniquity to pass from thee, and I will clothe thee with change of remnant. So we see here that the first one to be given the garment is Joshua, the high priest, the highest official in the church. If he has not the garment, then no one else has it either. And from this we see that the genuine revival and reformation starts at the head and not at the feet. And that before one is given the right to put the garment on, his iniquity is taken away. He repents from his sins and the Lord blots them out. Satan, though, is right there to resist and accuse him, but thanks be to God that the Lord is also there to rebuke the enemy. Do you catch the lesson, brother, sister? While you're getting the garment, you will have to meet strong opposition. But what of it? Is it too much to stand firmly for truth and righteousness when the majority forsake it? And how else will you become a hero for God? The apostles and the prophets not only withstood opposition from their own brethren, but they even gladly died for their white garments. You, though, are not asked to give up your life, but to save it. And the tables are now reversed. They're turned. And the Lord will not permit you to be consumed by the flames. He is to rescue you as a brand plucked out of the fire. From this we see that Joshua of today is having his filthy garments exchanged for white robes, for the righteousness of Christ. I read Zechariah 3:5. And I said, Let them set a fair mitre upon his head. So they set a fair mitre upon his head and clothed him with garments. And the angel of the Lord stood by. So not only is he clothed in a white garment, but he is also crowned with a fair mitre. And what could such a mitre denote other than the authority invested in him as heaven's appointed ruler? As such, he is clothed from his head to his feet, and the angel of the Lord stood by. What a gift! What a bodyguard for one to have in a world such as ours. In spite of it, though, human beings are very slow and hesitant to take their stand on the Lord's side. Most of them would rather lean on a man. Hear now, O Joshua, the high priest, thou and thy fellows that sit before thee, for they are men wondered at. For behold, I will bring forth my servant the branch. So not only Joshua, but also those who sit before him, that is the congregation, are admonished to hear this charge. And what kind of men are they? Men wondered at. This symbolism shows that at the fulfillment of this prophecy, the angel of the church of the Laodicean is no longer in charge of the Lord's house, and that God's people are to be made up wholly of men wondered at. Obviously, then, as a result of this revival and reformation within the Laodicean church, another church emerges of which Joshua is in charge. Not the angel of Laodicean, that is the seventh, but of the eighth, the eternal. And in it, there are to be neither tares, Matthew 13:30, bad fish, Matthew 13:47 and 48, or goats, Matthew 25:32. The Laodicean, the seventh, is the last and is commingled with the hypocrites, the saints and sinners. Who is to bring this revival and reformation, this great change? The branch. And according to Isaiah 11:1-5, the branch is the Lord, the Son of David. Now we shall read Zechariah 3:9. For behold, the stone that I have laid before Joshua, upon one stone shall be 7 eyes. Behold, I will engrave the graving thereof, saith the Lord of hosts, and I will remove the iniquity of that land in one day. So those who sit before Joshua are men wondered at. As such, they are depicted by the stones or the church or the kingdom that is in Joshua's sight. It has 7 eyes, perfect vision, and when this purification of the church takes place, then the sins in the land is quickly removed. And how long? In one day. Here finally is seen genuine revival and reformation accompanied by the purification of the church, and the Lord is to have a pure church and a clean people. Zechariah 3:10. In that day, saith the Lord of hosts, shall ye call every man his neighbor under the vine and under the fig tree. In that day, in the day this purification takes place, the gospel work is to be quickly finished by having every member of the Lord's house call his neighbor to his own patch of land and to that which God has preordained that everyone should have. Every member, therefore, is to be a missionary in one capacity or another. This indeed is the layman's movement that shall finish the gospel work. The statement, call every man his neighbor under the vine and under the fig tree, appears also in Micah 4. It teaches the same thing that Zechariah teaches. So this subject, however, does not stop with Zechariah 3. It continues on. Then take silver and gold and make crowns and set them upon the head of Joshua, the son of Josedek, the high priest. The angel is commanded to take silver and gold and make crowns. Notice, not singular but plural. Not one but many. And these are set upon Joshua's head. And the crown shall be to Helam and to Tobijah and to Jediah and to Hin the son of Zephaniah for a memorial in the temple of the Lord. So we see here that verse 14 reveals that Joshua is to do what? He's to pass the crowns on to the helpers whom the Lord himself names. This is to be a memorial, an everlasting reminder in the temple of the Lord. So what can all this mean? Just this. Joshua is heaven's appointed judge, ruler. He himself is crowned as such, and in response to the Lord's own command, Joshua crowns or authorizes his helpers, whom the Lord himself names. In other words, as members of the house of David, Joshua authorizes them to engage in the work. So Joshua is responsible to the Lord, but his helpers are responsible to Joshua. Here is seen an organization having a leader and an underleader, the Lord and Joshua. Thus it is, whatever is to be bound on earth is also to be bound in heaven. As concretely as heaven can make it, the symbolism depicts that God's people in this final work are not to labor at cross purposes. All are to speak the same thing. So it is that his watchmen shall lift up the voice. With the voice together they shall sing, and they shall see eye to eye when the Lord shall bring again Zion. Isaiah 52:8. Then his people shall be called the holy people, the redeemed of the Lord, sought out, a city not forsaken. Isaiah 62:12. Again, in Zechariah 6:12, and speak unto him, saying thus, speaketh the Lord of hosts, saying, behold, the man whose name is the branch, and he shall grow up out of his place, and he shall build a temple of the Lord. So Joshua is well instructed that the burden and the ingenuity for building this spiritual temple belongs to him whose name is the branch. He is to go out of his place, and to him be glory. He alone is to be exalted. He is to build the temple of the Lord. Again, Zechariah 6 verses 13 and 15. Even he shall build the temple of the Lord, and he shall bear the glory, and shall sit and rule upon his throne, and he shall be a priest upon his throne, and the counsel of peace shall be between them both. And they that are far off shall come and build in the temple of the Lord, and ye shall know that the Lord of hosts has sent me unto you. And this shall come to pass, if you will diligently obey the voice of the Lord your God. Thus shall the prophecies of Isaiah, chapter 2 and 4, also the 4th chapter of Micah, be fulfilled. Finally, how do we know for certain that this message was planned and recorded especially for the church of today? Well, we know it from the fact that the revelation of these scriptures is now, never before, unveiled and proclaimed. Now its proclamation makes known that the Lord is taking the reins in his own hands. Testimonies to Ministers, page 300, and that the time of the purification of the church, the judgment of the living in the house of God, 1 Peter 4:17, is at hand. That the purified ones, the 144,000, the wheat, Revelation 14:1, are to be put in the barn, Matthew 13:30, no longer to be commingled with the tares, that an innumerable multitude from all nations, Revelation 7 verse 9, are to be brought to the house of the Lord, Isaiah 66 verses 19 and 20. Now you yourself can now answer the question whether or not you are a part of the progressive believers, those that are becoming a part of the eighth movement, those who have followed the scroll as it has enrolled the eternal, or still of the seventh and remain there. That is the temporal, still a Laodicean. And if you're satisfied with your spiritual attainments and with your man-made gospel programs, and if you think that the Lord is speaking to you by whatever happens to click into your mind, and if you think you have all the truth and that you have need of nothing more, and if you think that everyone who does not have your stamp of approval on his belief, and if you are in constant fear that someone is everlastingly trying to deceive you because he teaches something new, and if you never give it a thought that you may be slamming the door against a truth bearer who may be bringing to you the Lord's eye salve and the wedding garment, and if you do these things or any part of them, then you must be as good a Laodicean as you could possibly be and not a progressive believer. But if you are a part of those who are embracing the meat in due season, that visitation, that truth that God is now dispensing among the Laodiceans. But if you are aware that your garments are filthy and your iniquity not blotted out, and if you realize that you are to walk in God's ways as he directs through the Joshua of today, and if you're all for God and not at all for self and for the world, then of course you either are or are becoming a person that is a progressive believer. And if you have not attained to all of these things, you should see that you do. And if you already have, then keep advancing in the light, and for certain you shall finally stand on Mount Zion with the Lamb. Now take the counsel of the Lord, and no longer be like a piece of bark drifting in the sea with every wind of doctrine. The people of God are represented in the message to the Laodiceans as in a position of carnal security. They are at ease, believing themselves to be in an exalted condition of spiritual attainments, Seventh-day advantages. What greater deception can come upon the human mind than a confidence that they are right when they are all wrong? And when they are all wrong, the message of the true witness finds the people of God in a sad deception, honest in that deception, and they know not that their condition is deplorable in the sight of God, while those addressed are flattering themselves that they are in an exalted spiritual condition. The message of the true witness breaks their security by the startling denunciation of their true condition of spiritual blindness, poverty, and wretchedness. And the testimony so cutting and severe cannot be a mistake, for it is the true witness who speaks, and his testimony must be correct.